understand is that if you buy the same thing today and the box looks exactly the same, it's not the same thing it was 30 years ago. And I think that the food companies and everybody has done a great job of marketing to make us think that they're the same thing, but they're completely not the same thing. The toxicity that's in our food today is outrageous. For the last 30 years, the government, the FDA, has really been allowing a lot of this different kind of toxicity, pesticides, herbicides into our food, kind of under the radar, right? And this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, and this is starting to drive our hormones. And what I want you to really understand is that oftentimes, increased weight is not as much an eating problem as it is a hormone issue. And so we're going to talk about that tonight and hopefully answer any questions. So if you guys come up with questions, then just let us know. Did you guys get a chance to fill out the intake form about what your goals are and those kind of things? Okay. So there's also a toxicity questionnaire that Spencer will hand out so that you guys can fill that out. We want to know what your goals are, kind of what you're here for, and what's happening with you. So we're going to get started. So we're talking about 15 pounds healthier in 15 weeks. So we're going to be giving you some actionable strategies tonight to put into play in your life so that you can start making some changes. But I know that all weight loss starts with some kind of detox. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So the first thing we're going to look at is, what is your objective, right? Is it to lose weight, right? Is it to avoid disease? Is it to increase strength, speed, or performance, or increase your capacity and function? You know, I guess I'm an idealist, so I think when people come in to see me, that they're looking for optimum health, because that's really the ideal, right? Making sure that optimum health is there, because frankly, we have the wrong definition of health. And we talk about this all the time when we're seeing you for chiropractic, because most people think if I look good and I feel good, then I must be healthy, right? But that can't be further from the truth. We can't judge how healthy we are by the way that we feel, right? It's an aspect of it for sure. But what does heart disease feel like, right? 80% of heart disease is diagnosed with the first heart attack, right? What does cancer feel like? What does tooth decay feel like until it gets too far, right? Our system is not built to give us pre-warning systems, right? We're usually finding out years later from when the problem actually ends. So optimum health is really the creation and what I want to try and help people understand. So what is optimal health? Well, it's improved function. So we all like to know what we're getting measured on, right? There's biometrics, right? In the office here, we do x-ray, we do posture, we check to see how we turn, bend, and move, we look for signs, we look for symptoms. We want to see increased performance. So these are ways that we measure, and they're easier to measure today than they ever have been. The way that we can walk, how far we can walk, how far we can run, how we can push ourselves, right? And then a healthy appearance, right? Looking good is good. Because, you know, some people, they come here and they say, Doc, what I really want, I just want to look good naked, right? So that's what it comes down to, is being able to look good, feel good, but more importantly, being able to function great, right? So that's what we want to make sure that we're able to do. So, you know, it was bothersome to me because during Christmas shopping this year, I was walking by a store in the mall, and I don't like to go to the mall that often, but during Christmas time I sometimes do. And I saw something that was kind of sad to me. It said, "Skinny is the new sexy," right? And I think that's what we're doing to the young people that are growing up. That's what we're growing up with. And bodies come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, right? And we can be healthy in any one of those body types. But what I want to help people understand is that I think healthy is the new sexy, right? That's what we want to be. We want to be able to fully function from today until the end of our life, whether that's at 80 or whether it's at 150, right? Our bodies have the ability to live for way longer than what we are if we do the right things. So, the brutal facts though. So we're going to take a dive back. So obesity is both troubling and informative because of the epidemic that we're seeing, right? Because adiposity, the depositing of fat tissue, is largely caused by poor diet, so excess calories and inadequate physical activity. The emphasis today is on more downstream risk factors such as hypertension, dyslipidemia, and diabetes, which address neither the root cause of obesity or the full cardiovascular consequences. So what's that saying? It's saying that we're focusing on all the wrong things. It's saying that we're focusing on diabetes, we're focusing on hypertension, we're focusing on all these things that are really the effect of the obesity, right? So there's an abundance of evidence that's really suggesting that lifestyle factors, including exposure to chemical carcinogens, physical inactivity, and diet play major roles in the development of most common cancers. This is awesome for us because this means that we have control. For a long time when we were trying to figure out the genome, which was when I was in chiropractic school, they were saying genes are 80 to 90% of what happens in your life. That's what's going to happen. You get dealt those cards and that's what's going to happen. But it's totally flipped. Now we know that genes are 10 to maybe 15% of what our health outcomes are. And guess what's the biggest part? Lifestyle. The way that we eat, move, and think, right? That's what's the biggest part of it. So the cool thing is that we can have an effect on that. There's a whole field called epigenetics that I talk on sometimes. And epigenetics is the ability of your body to turn on and off genes. So your body turns on genes when they're under stress, right? Your body's able to turn off genes when we're living in a healthier aspect of life. So the current human diet contains a variety of mutagens, carcinogens that lead to the initiation of cancer and other chronic diseases. So what we look at is this is how our body functions, right? We know that oil that is reheated over and over and over again and things are deep fried in it, those things are carcinogenic. There's no question about that. When we see charred meat, we know that there is carcinogens in that, right? So there are some simple things that we can do to avoid things that are going to be bad for us. Now, the prevalence of overweight in US adults has increased dramatically during the past 30 years, with type 2 diabetes representing what is perhaps the most serious obesity-related consequence. Now, the other side of this, as people start to age, is Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is being called type 3 diabetes, okay? So it's still a sugar handling issue, right? So nearly 90% of individuals with type 2 diabetes are overweight. So obesity, the downstream conditions like we talked about, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all these different aspects start to have an effect. So fat, what I want you guys to think of is fat equals sick, right? Obesity is literally the linchpin to chronic disease, and that's what makes you sick. So obesity is sick, right? What people are currently doing is not working. Would you agree? Everybody who's come to this workshop, it's not for lack of trying that you're in the place where you are, right? So what we want to do is break down some barriers and some ideas that you may have learned. So we want to understand and realize that fat is a symptom, right? It's not the problem, it's a symptom. And when we start looking at it like that, then we can be on the same side of the line and know how to attack it. But when we think that fat is a cause, then we're in trouble because now it starts to rule. The fat is a symptom. So symptoms are the tip of the iceberg. They're the things that are happening that are not necessarily what the real problem is, but they're the things that are on our mind because it's what we feel, right? So the problem is usually a much bigger issue. So it's a bigger issue that's going on underneath the surface. The tip of the iceberg's up here. This is why diets don't work, right? Because if we just diet, guess what? We can shave down that tip of the iceberg, but then guess what? If we stop doing those things that are in the diet, that iceberg grows and it grows bigger, right? And that's not what we want to do. We want to make lifestyle changes that are sustainable over a long time. It would be great to lose 50 pounds in a month or 2 months, but guess what? Whatever you're doing is typically not sustainable with that, right? And it's just going to come back in a vengeance. So we have chronic hormone imbalance due to the foods that we're eating and the toxicity that we're developing. So adiposity, or extra body fat, is a symptom of chronic hormone imbalance. Hormones and enzymes regulate how we store fat. Because is fat a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's a good thing, right? If it's done correctly. Because guess what fat was? It was something that our bodies would typically store during summertime, right? And then when the leaner months came, when we couldn't get food, then our body would use that fat for fuel, right? So when we get the proper fat storage, it's right. But when we're not able to burn the fat, because now enzymes aren't working, hormones aren't working, so now we become sugar burners. We're not actually digging into our stores to actually burn them, right? So you must regain hormone balance through specific lifestyle changes and choices that directly impact the hormone balance if you ever wish to conquer any kind of weight issue. So the perfect hormone storm is what we're in right now, is a toxic and deficient food choices, energy imbalance, so we're sitting on our butts longer than we ever have before, right? Excessive calorie intake, sedentary lifestyle. Now, you add chronic social stress, right, and lack of sleep and chronic exhaustion. There's no wonder why our kids are getting into this situation, right? Because I don't know about any of you, but growing up right now with the social media seems like it would be a stressful process, right? So much more communication, so much more out there about you. It just seems like a stressful situation. So how to regain control of your hormones? 6 steps. Food quality, quantity, food rhythms, activity levels, social stress, and sleep patterns. Okay? So we're going to dive into some of these a little bit deeper. So scream if these are the top 5 dieting lies, and just stand up and say hallelujah if one of these is yours, right? Number 1 is weight problems run in my family, right? Just eat less and you'll lose weight. You ever tried that? Doesn't work very well, right? Not for long. I'll just work it off at the gym. Calories are calories. It doesn't matter, right? Calories in or calories out, whatever you burn. And sleep has nothing to do with it. I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? So let's jump into these. So big lie number 1. Weight problems run in my family. What did we just talk about genetics? We have a genetic path, right? But it's something that is easily switched because of lifestyle, right? But the problem is that we learn our lifestyle from who? From our family, right? So these two things go together. So we've got genetics working against us as well as lifestyle choices. So genes and body composition. We have a few things. So we look at these 3 things, right? We've got genes, environment, and lifestyle. Okay, so there's some things we can't change. Can we change our genes? Epigenetics we can a little bit, but I'd say we can't change our genes, right? Our environment is very difficult to change as well, right? Unless we totally remove ourselves and get into something totally different. We're still going to have the same friends, family, those kind of things, right? So environments, we can make certain changes, but some of them we can't. What can we make a massive change in? Our lifestyle, right? So where these things overlap, right? This is where you are. This is where we can start to make these, and this Venn diagram is huge at being really able to understand how those things work. So, obesity trends. This is crazy, okay? So we're looking at obesity trends from 1990 to 1998 to 2006, okay? So if you look at down here, no data. So down here, 0% is light blue, darker blue is up to 14%, then 15 to 19, 20 to 24, and so on. Okay? 1990, how are we doing? We're doing pretty good. Less than 14% of people were obese, pretty much across the board. Right? In 8 years, what happened? Major change, right? Major change in the 90s. We're going to talk about what happened in 1990 in a minute. And then just go 16 years ahead, so double it again, and we're pretty much all up into the 19 to 20%, right? A huge, fast, dramatic change. Now, this has gone on, so I want to talk about one thing. So the human lifestyle has been around for millions of years, right? And pretty much it's been pretty flat as far as chronic diseases, heart diseases, until the last 100, 150 years, right? And then we've started to see a dramatic increase, right? We would die early, but not because of diseases that had to do with the chronicity that we have. It would be because of the things that, we got into fights, there was a lot of war, those kind of things. Refrigeration, food issues would come up. But, we want to see how the body's doing. But we see, this is Auntie. This is Kendra's auntie. So she became 100 pounds healthier because she lost 60 pounds of weight and gained 40 pounds of muscle, right? So a major changeover in her life. She made changes, right, as we went through. But what changed? The genes? The environment? No, the lifestyle, right? We want to understand that how we eat, move, and think is going to determine what our outcomes are. So environmental, relationships, strategies, and choices. So we want to start to put in some of these things ahead of time. So like I said before, healthy comes in all shapes and sizes, okay? we can be healthy no matter if we're mesomorphic, which is kind of in between, okay, kind of normal body style, whether we're endomorphic, which is the short person that's stocky, or whether we're exomorphic, and everybody's a combination of most of these, and exomorphic is the super tall, skinny person, right? You can be healthy or unhealthy in any of these. My father-in-law's family is an awesome example. They have 12 kids, and about half of them are short, stocky endomorphs, and the rest of them are exomorphs. So the exomorphs actually have the worst of it because they were tall, they could eat, drink, do whatever they wanted to, and they stayed skinny. But guess what? They all died of heart attacks because they looked good, they thought they felt good, and they dropped dead of a heart attack because they thought they looked good. I'm in shape, I'm doing the right things, right? The body doesn't give us feedback necessarily. It's how we process some of these things. They were in the same family, right? My father-in-law, he's short, stocky, and kind of more square, right? And he has been overweight, and he's been healthy. And you can be healthy in any one of these body types, right? So 15 pounds healthier, what does that mean? We talk about body composition, right? You might not lose a lot of weight, because if you gained 15 pounds of muscle and you lost 15 pounds of fat, do you think that's healthier? Right. So is the scale a good way for us to tell if we're doing something positive? Not necessarily, right? So 15 pounds healthier, I want you to think about that. And the scale definitely has a place, and it's a piece of the puzzle, but it's only a piece, right? So we look at body composition, the amount of lean tissue versus fatty tissue, right? This is body fat. This is looking at these kind of things. Optimal ranges. Women, they're a little bit higher because, you know, we have different areas to store it, so we'll go over those. Looking at biomarkers. So biomarkers, like I said, scale is one, abdominal measurement, body fat composition. So men, like a normal range is 8 to 15% for men. Women are 12 to 23%. So difference in what the body composition is supposed to be, right? So big lie number 2, just eat less and you'll lose weight. Has anybody tried this? Not easy, right? So food deprivation fails. It can work for periods of time, but in the long run, how does our body react to that? We feel deprived. We feel like, oh, I just wonder if I could just have this, right? So it's unsustainable. So it's like breathing, right? Maybe if we take 20 breaths a minute and we decide we're only going to have 14, right? You can do that for a little while, but how good is that going to last over time, especially if you start to exercise, right? That's what I want you to think of, because that's what it is. Our body is telling us to eat for a reason, right? Partially the hormone imbalance. We have metabolic changes. So our body is smart. Our body is very smart. God is good, right? Because what happens in time of famine, what does our body do? It slows our metabolism down so we don't need to use as much energy, right? When there's a lot of food available, then it should speed up our metabolism. Now, because of some of our lifestyles and how we're living in an unnatural light, right, as well as having food that's not typically available all year round, right, easy to get, we've started to change some of this. We go into survival mode, right? We want to survive, so our body says, hey, I'm going to hold on to all this food that I'm getting in, right? Changes our metabolism. Our metabolism holds on to that fat. There's short-term torture, and then we start to yoga, right? And then this becomes very difficult because then our body starts to get a memory of what's going on. So I'll tell you some ways that we can actually do a little bit of food deprivation that is very healthy, and a way that we can actually make and change and move the needle. And it's by retraining your body, whether it burns sugar or whether it burns fat. Because most people right now are sugar burners, and that's unhealthy. Big lie number 3, calories are calories, okay? So, perfect hormonal storm, toxic food choices, right? That's what we're looking at here. So building the pyramid. The pyramid is a joke, right? It started in the Great Depression, and I might even say it caused the Great Depression, right? We're on our 5th iteration, and what do we have in there? We've got grains, right? We've got a little bit of fruits and vegetables. We've got milk had to make it in there, right? We've got meats and even meat substitutes, right? Really? And then what do we have up here? Fats, oils, and sweets. So that kind of looks like a Hershey's candy bar, right? So is this for real, right? If we follow this, guess what we're going to end up with? right? This is a human captivity, right? Essentially, when we're eating like this. But unfortunately, this is what's being preached and taught to what we do, right? Obesity is the linchpin to chronic disease. We want to understand that. The pyramid just does not work, right? If we flipped it on its head, maybe, right? But I would argue that oils need to be much higher, as long as they're good oils, right? When people think of oils, they just don't think of the right ones, and we're going to get into the right ones tonight. So we're going to look at what's right, right? The modern human or the hunter-gatherer. We use hunter-gatherers because when we go back and look at fossil records, we find no sign of chronic disease. When we look at hunter-gatherers who are alive now, or tribes that are alive now, we look at them and there's no chronic diseases. There's none of these diseases that the modern world kind of deals with, right? So wild hunter-gatherers, what do we have? High carbohydrates, but good carbohydrates, right? Low to moderate, good fat. High protein, no refined foods, no dairy, no sugar. Okay, we knew he was going to talk about sugar. Industrialized modern human, high refined carbohydrates, right? Low fat, right? Everybody goes for the low fat because what's it going to do? It's going to make them less fat. Low protein, no red meat. Now this is huge, and this gets confusing too. 1 year, it's eggs aren't good, they cause cholesterol, they're going to clog your arteries. And then the next year, eggs are the best food that you could ever eat, right? And it comes from the quality of things that you get, right? Whether it's eggs or red meat. Red meat's as healthy for you as salmon if you have the right kind of red meat, right? Grass-fed beef, grass-fed and grass-finished beef, right, is going to have the same omega 3 to 6 concentration as what fish does, right? Sugar, everything in moderation, right? We'll talk about how that doesn't work. So the results are in. These poor quality food fails, right? Because these toxic choices, deficient choices, unbalanced choices lead to hormonally unbalanced and glycemic load, right? Glycemic load is how we measure how much sugar's in our blood, right? So we're going to talk about that. So we start to get a hormonal impact. So these are 3 hormones that I want you guys to really understand tonight. Insulin, glucagon, and cortisol. We're going to mostly talk about the top and the bottom, okay? So when I say insulin, I want you guys to think and say fat storage hormone. Okay, let's try it. Insulin.
Fat storage hormone.
Okay, good job. Elevated insulin locks you into fat storage. Okay? What causes elevated insulin? Sugars and refined carbohydrates, so fast carbs, these are breads, grains, those kind of things, and dairy. Energy imbalance, excess calories, so eating too many calories, overeating, and also sedentary lifestyle. So those kind of 3 things, 2 major categories of food choices, energy imbalances, but sugars, refined carbohydrates, and dairy. And then down here, too many calories, so this is just overeating in general, right? Too big of portions, and a sedentary lifestyle, so under movement. So glycemic index, let's talk about what this is. So glycemic index is how we measure how sugar affects your body, right? How it affects it. So blood sugar levels are here, minutes are here. If we get glucose, right, a spoonful of glucose, that's going to be 100% how the body would react to it, okay? Because that's going to get right into your blood immediately. So over here, this is what lentils would be. So 30% increase in blood sugar, okay? So high glycemic foods, right? Rice Chex, cornflakes, pretzels, Rice Krispie cereal, rice cakes, waffles, white bread. But what about wheat bread? Wheat bread's just a little bit better, 69 rather than 70 on glycemic index. But wheat bread, whole wheat bread, is going to have more anti-nutrients as well. Anti-nutrients, and let me just back up a little bit. What are grains? Like at their core. Yeah, they're seeds. And what does seeds exist on this planet for? To grow, plant and reproduce, right? So do you think that seed wants to die? Right? So those seeds want to live so that they can reproduce and they can create and they can further on whatever they are, right? So they are filled with anti-nutrients, which are nutrients that do not digest in our system, so that they can come out the other side and grow. Anybody eaten corn before? Right? So grains are the same way. Gluten, leptin, lutein, All these things are anti-nutrients. Now what does that mean? These things are causing, and this is a different lecture that I do about leaky gut and gut issues, but grains cause leaky gut. Okay? They have for all the time, but for the last 20 years, 22 years especially, 24 years, because grains, they go through our system and they break up what are called a tight junction. Our gut is only 1 or 2 cells thick. They have wall-tight junctions that basically fuse the cells together so proteins can't get out past them. What happens when we eat grains, they get irritated, they break those tight junctions, and then full proteins, undigested, start to break out into our bloodstream, and then our body starts to attack these proteins, and then any protein they see like them, they form antibodies to. Has anybody been hearing more today than you did any other time about autoimmune diseases? That's how they start, right? Your body starts to attack itself because it starts to label good proteins as bad because they're undigested and your body hasn't broken down into the pieces that they need to be. Okay? So that's what the glycemic index is. So we look at what's going on. This is the typical diet, right? This is refined sugars, refined vegetable oils, grains, and dairy, and then the things that you're actually supposed to eat are less than a quarter of what we're eating. Right? You guys probably see this in your diet and in diets that you see. Right? 70% of the calories and energy in the U.S. supply are coming from the things that are not supposed to be giving us energy. So these foods compromise, and these are all in the typical Western diet, right? Bread, cereals, pasta, rice, dairy, refined vegetable oils. Oils are huge. They're going to be a big problem in our cells. And our cells, right, they have a phospholipid membrane. The phospholipid membrane is made of fat, right? Lipid, right? You're supposed to have receptor sites on your cells that let good stuff in and let bad stuff out, right? There's mitochondria inside the cells. Mitochondria are like the little factories that create ATP, which is energy, right? Those mitochondria, they are like I said, little factories. So they are, as they produce energy, they're causing waste. If the waste can't get out from your cells and the good stuff can't get in, then we start to get an overabundance of this cellular basically trash, right? It can't get released. So this is the inflection point. This is the graph I was thinking of earlier. What happens, this is just from kind of the 60s, 70s. So we see everything staying pretty flat until 1980. Okay? 1980s when all of this started to change, when overweight and obesity started to make a dramatic change. Okay? So for thousands, hundreds, millions of years, this has been pretty flat, right? And then all of a sudden, 1980. Well, what happened in 1980? Boston released its first album. It's probably not it, right? I don't know. Well, let's see. So feedlot produced meats started being in 1850. That's not it. Refined grains started to get introduced. We're seeing a little bit of increase, but not that much. Refined vegetable oils in 1900. Hydrogenated oils just after 1900. But, 1980. Oh, high fructose corn syrup. Okay. So now we start seeing what's moving the needle. What's in everything that you look at the label on? High fructose corn syrup, right? Now, if high fructose corn syrup wasn't bad enough, starting in 1996, maybe a little bit before that, all corn became poisonous, unless it's organic, right? Because we started allowing GMOs into our crops. And what are GMOs? GMOs is where they link DNA into that food so that it does something different. In corn, what did they put in there? BT. BT is a bug toxin. It eats the bug's stomach from the inside out. Okay? So with bugs, so it's what they used to spray on these crops, right? But now they just decide, hey, now we don't have to spray it on the crops, now we can just put it in the food. So now if bugs eat the corn, guess what? They die, right? But now all corn is like that. And guess what? Corn syrup is highly concentrated corn. So now we're getting basically poison syrup that's in nearly everything that we have. So we're in bondage with sugar. Okay? it's a substance. When you look at what sugar does to our brain, right? It lights up the same centers as addictive foods or addictive drugs like cocaine, right? I say bondage because alcoholics know this. If you're trying to stop drinking, you can't have it anywhere near you. It can't be in the house because your body takes over and your mind doesn't think of it, right? We need to understand what the environment is, what relationship. You can't have it in the house. I always tell people that the battle is won at the grocery store, right? If it's in Ben & Jerry's, neither Ben nor Jerry's healthy for you. But if Ben & Jerry's is in your freezer, it's going to be easy to get to, right? But if it's in the store and you're looking at 10 o'clock at night, guess what you're not going to eat? You're not going to go to the store to get it, right? So, when the best thing to do when you start this process, right, is just cut sugar 100%, right? It's not I'll have a little bit here and there because it's a slippery slope, right? It starts to let us go down. So once you go a month or a couple months without any, then you can have it periodically and it's not going to grab you as hard. But it is a slippery slope and you have to be careful with that, and it's a big deal. The top 7 dieting pitfalls. Number 1, our next door neighbors are one of the biggest beneficiaries of this. We drink our calories, right? You look at some of the drinks that we have, whether it's cocktails over the holidays or whether it's, going to our favorite coffee shop. We're drinking calories. So, there might be 500 or 1,000 calories in a drink that's finished in 5 minutes, right? That's, half your day's worth of calories. Too much fruit. Fruit's so good for me. I don't eat fruit all the time. Fruit is good for you. The fruit juice is not. I actually did a Facebook Live because I work out with a group where we work out in and this was just not this Saturday before. And I went after a big workout. First meal somebody's having, they're having a big glass of orange juice, right? And that's just like a shot in the arm of sugar, right? Because a glass of orange juice, 12 ounces, is like 8 to 10 oranges, right? You're not getting any of the good stuff that's in it. You're not getting any fiber. So your body's just getting literally a shot of sugar. Dairy, grainitarians, most people who start being vegetarian end up being grainitarian, right? We're eating too many grains, right? Snacks, post-exercise binging, and then breaking your fast the wrong way, right? So post-exercise binging, I just worked out, I just worked that off, I deserve this one, right? You gotta be careful with what we tell ourselves there. Breaking your fast the wrong way. What's the first meal we eat in a day? This is when we break our fast, right? That's why it's called that. So I'm going to challenge everybody to change the way that you think about breakfast and understand that you are breaking your fast. Ideally, if you're going 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours between the time you ate at night, any calorie, and the morning time, your body is in the healthiest, most efficient functioning that it can be. If you go and have a donut, what do you think happens? It crashes, right? Coffee with nothing in it's fine, right? It's not gonna be the issue. It's the sugar and it's the refined grains. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about what we call intermittent fasting, or fasting in general, right? Because fasting is quickly becoming something that I've been practicing for 4 years, and it's something that is quickly becoming kind of a fountain of youth. We're finding all kinds of positive effects from it, and you can get it by doing a little bit at a time, and you won't even notice, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Are you going to share this presentation with us?
I don't know. Maybe. I'm recording it, so yes.
Okay.
So I can do that. So there's a new problem for the new generation. This is what I was talking about, glyphosate. This is the issue that's coming. Glyphosate is Roundup, or going further back, a weaker version of Agent Orange, okay, where we killed and defoliated the forests in Vietnam. Now it's in almost everything we eat. Wheat, they used to grow wheat, and then when September came, the wheat would die, and then they would harvest it, and then they could take care of it, right? But now, what do? Halfway through the wheat season, they spray it with glyphosate. They do what's called desiccating the wheat. Kills all the wheat, so now they can harvest it, dry it, get it ready. They can plant another crop, so now they can plant 2 crops during 1 year. okay? And our grain is now doused with glyphosate. Glyphosate, 1,000 tons, how much it has actually increased, right, is the red line. That's the increased use of glyphosate. This is deaths per 100,000. Glyphosate it's used on corn and soy. In Chile, I think it was, where there's a bunch of big soy farms. They started doing this GMO soy, which almost all soy, so tofu that we think is good for us, is not unless it's organic, because it is one of the top crops. So is canola. So canola oil is one of the top crops that are straight with glyphosate. So they were doing this, and the kids had an increased cancer of 75% around those areas, because they would now, instead of just going in and spraying as they needed, they just fly over with a plane and drop glyphosate all over. And so it got everywhere, right? Because now they can spray it on an entire crop, and guess what wouldn't die? The soy. Guess what would die? Everything else.
So glyphosate is the same as Roundup, or it's in Roundup?
It's in Roundup. Yep, it's in Roundup. It's the active ingredient that defoliates. So our children are the glyphosate generation, right? Everything on here has glyphosate in it, right? And now we mix the toxicity of glyphosate with heavy metals that are increasing in our environment, in our lakes, in our rivers, in the increased number of vaccinations that people get, right? And then this becomes a synergist to create toxicity in the cells. So energize correct. This is what we talk about how we should be eating. Unlimited fruit or unlimited vegetables, abundant lean natural meats, right? What does that mean? It means naturally raised meats. It's not corn lock, it's not lock fed, right? This is 100% grass-fed, grass-finished cows. If they grass-feed a cow all the way to the end and grain finish it for the last month, it ruins the meat, right? I mean, it doesn't ruin the meat, it makes it taste better, but it's worse for you, right? Wild game. Chickens are just allowed to go out and eat how they normally would, whether they're eating bugs or whatever they're eating, right? Eating their normal diet. Some fruit, nuts and seeds, and limited starch and no sugar, right? This is paleo correct, right? People have heard of paleo. Paleo's like Paleolithic, the way that we were meant to eat, right? We only started introducing grains in the last 10,000 years. Our genes have not changed to allow for that, right? As part of an overall lifestyle, we want to make sure that we're staying active too, right? So why paleo? Where our genes dictate what our nutritional needs are. Our genes were shaped over time by environmental experience, right? Our genes really haven't changed for over 40,000 years. And up until 500 generations ago, 2.5 million years before that, all humans ate the same diet. And there's no evidence of ancestral degenerative disease, and the agricultural revolution changed all of that, right? So what does paleo look like? Kind of what I just talked about. Unlimited non-starchy vegetables, so good carbs. No refined grains, right? Plenty of fruit and berries, relatively high animal protein, moderate amounts of good fat, high in fiber, high potassium, low sodium, net alkaline load, right? And then rich in phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. Now, oftentimes our soil's not allowing for some of these things to happen, so supplementing things like this and this are definitely a good thing to be able to do. So zone's very similar to paleo. It's just looking at in the food choices, but they talk about 40% carbs, so this is more like sweet potatoes, vegetable type of carbs, protein, and then 30% fat, the rule of thirds, so pretty much a third of each one of them, right? Staying in the zone. So where's the plants, the fat, and the protein? That's what we need to be focusing on. So this is really what we're looking at. Ancient grains can sometimes be okay, like quinoa, things like that, right? In small portions, right? But we look at what do we eat? It seems like so deprivative or deprived. I'm not sure what it's said. So, right, eggs with some kind of leafy green, tomatoes, peppers, and sausage. Right? There's so many different things that we can do that help us move. Right? You guys say pancakes. Pancakes are grain. We can make pancakes out of almond flour. We can make pancakes out of coconut flour. So we can make pancakes actually superfoods, right? my pancakes, we do a gluten-free pancake without grain, and I put our ECM, so our collagen protein. For every scoop of pancake mix, I put a scoop of ECM protein, and so now we're getting collagen protein because collagen protein doesn't denature with heat. So you can put it in coffee, you can put it in food, you can cook with it. My daughter's oatmeal, whenever I make oatmeal for her, guess what goes in it? A scoop of protein. Right? We've got salads, we've got different things that we can eat. So many good things that we're able to eat as we eat naturally and whole and full, and they're delicious, right?
I think we're just lazy.
Yeah. Well, it gets to be like that because we can, right?
Well,
and that's
because it's so, everything changed and lifestyle is so overwhelming with the things you're supposed
The
to be
stresses.
doing. Yeah, and you just don't have the time to do that. You know,
Right.
moms don't get to stay home with kids anymore. Dad's not working
Yeah.
just you know,
Yeah.
8-hour job. You know, I mean, it's just, or vice versa.
Totally.
It's just different.
Yeah, and I'd say that the easiest thing is to start to add things, right? So if you go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac, better walk over to Safeway and get a raw carrot, apple, something like that, right? Because you can add, right? If we add good things, then we start to bring it back balance. Instead of drinking soda or some sugary kind of water, just drink water, right? Water is good. Water is what we're meant to be having. So just another graphic on the do's and don'ts, the things that I keep beating down, right? So non-starchy vegetables, some fruit, meat, poultry, fish, range-fed eggs, natural fats, seeds, nuts, and water, right? You don't want to have refined carbohydrates, cereal grains, sweeteners, bad vegetable oils, dairy products, soda, juice, and alcohol, right? Now the exceptions, olive oil, avocado oil, palm oil, and coconut oil. I don't recommend palm as much because of palm deforestation, right? To get the palm oil, coconuts, same composition, but we don't have to harvest in order to get it, right? So, but all those are safe, effective, and very beneficial oils. MCT oil is a great way to break your fast in the morning time. MCT is a medium chain triglyceride oil, and it's made from palm and coconut. And it doesn't go through your liver, so it doesn't get processed by your liver, and so it goes through quick thermogenesis, meaning your body learns how to burn it. So eating this before you eat anything makes it so you break your fast efficiently, so your body burns and learns how to burn fat first, right?
So could you add the MCT oil to your coffee?
Every day I do.
If that's sort of how you
Yeah. Yep.
start your day?
Yep, because it's high temperature resilient too. So you can cook with it. Again, I put that in with the protein and MCT oil in my daughter's oatmeal. She doesn't even know.
Yeah,
Right? So the perfect hormonal storm, right? We go to sedentary lifestyle, right? So we are wild humans in captivity. Humans living today inherited a genome that was programmed for daily physical activity and a high fiber diet. That fiber is not in refined grains, right? We think of that like, I'm eating this bread because it's got my grains. It's not the best grains that we can have, right? We can supplement with psyllium husk. We can supplement with fiber if we need to. But if we're eating enough vegetables, we don't usually need to, right? So what causes elevated insulin? Reviewing this again, sugars, refined carbohydrates, dairy, excess calories. So insulin is something that our pancreas senses that there is sugar in our body. So what it does is it goes out and it takes the sugar out of our blood and stores it. So what did we say insulin was? Fat storage hormone. So how does it store fat? It goes and gets the energy or the sugar because our body only burns two types of energy. Glucose, right? And that's ATP is made from glucose or from ketones. And ketones, has anybody heard of the ketogenic diet?
Yes.
Okay, so ketogenic diet is when your body gets into a state of what's called ketosis. Ketosis is when your body starts to release alpha butyrate, right? And this can actually start to burn in the cells of your brain and other cells in your body. So ketosis allows us to burn basically like natural gas compared to like coal is how sugar burns, right? So we're able to use energy much more cleanly. Now, in order to be in ketosis, you can't have any sugars at all, and you have to have very, very little fruit if you can, right? So, big lie number 4, I'll just work it off at the gym. This one's a big one, right? This is what I hear all the time. I'm just going to start working out and I'll lose weight. I got to tell you, 80%, and on here it says 70, but what I've seen is 80% of it is from what you eat, how you eat, and if we get the hormones under control. 20% is due to the gym. And the body composition happens at the gym. Weight loss doesn't happen at the gym. Okay? So energy balance, your caloric needs, intake and output, hormonal impact. We want to support hard training and lean muscle, but not fat, right? We want to be able to support those things. The energy balance economy, so thrifty genes, very easy to consume calories, very difficult to burn, right? So our genes are smart. They want to let us survive. So what do? They make us consume what's easy and then make it difficult to burn because it locks it into fat. Because when we keep eating this, why burn the fat when we can just burn this, right? Because it's easier to get to. It's in our system. We don't need to go hunt for it. This is why intermittent fasting can be a good strategy, because we already probably don't eat, for 8, 10, 12 hours, right? So your body's starting to get into fat burning at that point. That's when our body's actually starting to become efficient. So if we can just hold that off for a little bit longer, women 14 hours, men 16 to 18 hours, can make a major change. And what does that do? It actually makes us consume less food, right? Not that it's necessarily what we have to do, but the longest living people and the most healthy people into their old age have been shown to have a calorie limited diet. So not eating a lot, so paying attention to portion control. And as you start doing this, your stomach doesn't feel like you need as much food either, right? Especially if you're getting the food that is filling you up. So, like I said, 30% gym, I think it's more like 20, 70% diet. That's what the research says. Abs are made in the kitchen, not the gym, right? This is a hard one for people to understand, but I've seen it over and over and over and over and over again. Exercise is critical in achieving optimal health and correcting metabolic derangement, but not in losing weight. Our ancestors exerted themselves daily, and really some of the best exertion is not going out and killing yourself in the gym. It's low-level physical activity all day long, right? This is why standing desks are becoming a thing. That's why treadmill desks are becoming a thing. There's a lot going on. Modern technology has made physical exertion optional, right? So it's still important to exercise as though our survival depends on it, and in a different way, it kind of does. So rebalance your hormones with exercise. Only exercise on the days that you eat. So exertion is key. So that was supposed to be fun. But
So it means every day.
That means every day, yeah.
Every day.
Unless you're doing like I'll do a 5-day water fast every year, and I'm probably going to lead one in the next 2 months. So anybody who wants to do that can do that. And those days you're not meant to, you don't need to exercise, or it can be much lower level, right? Because you're not eating. Exertion's key. Moving, sweating, panting, 30+ minutes, right? Doesn't matter what to do. You just need to start to move. Do what moves you, right? Whether that's dancing, whether it's running, whether it's walking, whether it's going to the gym, whatever it is, do something that moves you, that you love. So, social stress, right? Social stress is cortisol. So cortisol I talk about in a whole workshop called Sleep, right? We talk about the circadian rhythms, how our body works. Cortisol, again, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Everything that we have that's built in our body is a good thing, but when it's in a chronic state, it's a bad thing. Guess what subluxation? You guys all know what subluxation is. Subluxation, misalignment in the spine, causes pressure on the nerve. That causes cortisol to be released. It creates a stress response, right? And so when we have that on a chronic level, it becomes an issue. Is stress good or bad? I'm throwing all sorts of confusing ones at you. Stress is good. Stress kept us alive for millions of years. Stress is a good thing, right? Because if you were down at the watering hole and the saber-toothed tiger came down to get you, would it be good just to be like, no big deal? Probably not, right? We want to either fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's what cortisol creates. It's a stress response. Every chronic disease that we have comes from the stress response, whether it's heart disease, cancer, diabetes, any of these things. It's from cortisol taking over your life. This is the social stress, right? When cortisol is released, it starts to create a lot of issues, chronic psychological stress. So what I'm saying is stress in short spurts is good, right? Stress makes us get off our butt and do what we need to do, makes us finish the project. But when you're in stress today and tomorrow and all day, that's not how we're meant to live, right? all the diseases that we call diseases are actually the appropriate physiological response to excessive stress. Okay? Sleep deprivation is a huge one for this. So, big lie number 5. Sleep has nothing to do with it, right? I'll sleep when I'm dead. Sleep deprivation changes cortisol cycles. Cortisol is typically low in the PM and high in the AM. It's what wakes you up, right? If it's higher in the PM, guess what we start to get? Sleeping issues, right? We get unnatural schedules because when did we used to go to sleep? When the big ball in the sky went down, right? And when did we get up? Right, exactly. And guess what? That red light at the beginning of the day and the end of the day did.
Started and stopped.
It started, right? It ended the day with melatonin, right? And it started the day with serotonin, right? And that's what it helped us do as soon as that hit our retinas, right? So unnatural lighting, right? Leptin down means appetite up. Ghrelin up, appetite up. Cortisol makes us crave carbs. Insulin causes fat storage. Unnatural lighting, being in front of our blue light all day long. Is blue light bad? It's okay, and we're supposed to see it. The sun's blue light, right? But once we start getting it too early and too late, then it becomes a problem. There's glasses you can wear, there are blue blockers. There's things that you can do to start to biohack some of these things. But most of the lights that we have are straight blue light, right? If you can get amber light for your bathroom, so when you go to bed, you can just turn the amber light on. If you can get more incandescent lights rather than LED and fluorescent lights, they're better for us, right? Some of the LED lights, they're starting to make soft, so they're more orange, so that's beneficial as well, because they last longer. But light is, I think that light therapy and light activity is going to be the next big thing in healthcare. The way that we treat ourselves in our environment. It's going to be a huge piece because you guys know this. If you sit under fluorescent lights all day, do you feel like crap or do you feel like crap? Right? It changes the way that you feel. Right? So best practices, use your circadian rhythm, right? You want to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. 8 to 9 hours of sleep will typically yield at least an hour or an hour and a half of deep sleep and usually an hour of REM sleep. Okay? Those are the two important ones. Rest in deep sleep, that's when we restore. It's when we repair. If we don't get into deep sleep, then you can't get that. This ring right here tells me what my last night was, right? So do watches and some apps that we have, right? So you're able to measure some of these things now. So we want to have dark, quiet, comfortable rooms. We want to have an e-fast, right? So have a time when we turn off our phones, when we turn off the TVs, when we turn off the lights. If not, then make sure that you're using some protection on your eyes. And have a household culture where you go through that. I tell you, this is a tough one, man. I've got a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. They've got, and unfortunately, starting in 6th grade, our kids, they have all their homeworks on their computer. This is a hard thing to stop. There's good apps that can make it so your computers go to more red light. So there's ways to fight this, but it's getting harder and harder, right? So we've got to create that household culture and teach kids, right? So we want to make sure that we're engaging our parasympathetic nervous system. What's the parasympathetic nervous system? It's for rest, repair, and reproduction, right? Sympathetic nervous system is when cortisol is intact. That's fight, flight, or flee, or freeze, sorry. So eat more, sleep more, have more sex, you can do this, right? So given the ineffectiveness of popular weight loss diets, adoption of a healthy lifestyle is appropriate for winning the war against chronic disease, right? It's not a sprint. This is a marathon. It's about changing what we do day to day. For my entire life in practice, I've said small things done consistently over time make big changes, right? I tell people I'd way rather have you go to the gym 1 day a week and exercise hard 1 day a week for the rest of your life than try and do 5, 6, 7 days a week, because it's unsustainable, right? Because of our chronic stress lifestyle. If you go to the gym 1, 2 days a week and then you say, hey, I'm going to take a walk for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at my lunchtime, that is a good alternative, right? Because that low-level physical activity is as important as the high level, okay? So we look at the bucket overflowing. Now we're just going to start to get into chronic disease, how this stuff all affects this. physical, chemical, emotional stress is going to cause toxicity and our bucket to overspill. I think of toxicity in our body like a bucket, right? It all gets thrown in there, whether it's the toxicity from our foods, whether it's the things we think, or whether it's the car accident we got in yesterday, right? They're going to affect this. Now, when we get something that adds to, like car accident, this is why so many people, if you talk to them, I was totally healthy until I was in this car accident, right? And then all these symptoms came on that aren't necessarily physically related to the car accident, but it's because this inflammation bucket got spilled over and started causing some of these other things and put people into a cycle that can't be explained physically, but when we look at it biochemically, we can start to see where this stuff comes from. Toxicity is the linchpin for us to get this stuff under control. Toxicity happens at a cellular level, a tissue level, at a gut level, at a liver level, right? The downstream stuff is the gut and the liver. So those are things that we always clear out first, because then we can create a gradient, right? So there's lots of web resources, the Paleo Diet, Bonfire Health, CrossFit, Performance Menu, Mark's Daily Apple, Paleo Cookbooks, Paleo Diet, right? These are some good places where we can go for ideas on what we do. Mark's Daily Apple, Mark Sisson, he created the Primal brand. So if you, one of the only safe salad dressings that's not made from canola oil is Primal. He makes it all with avocado oil. It's great. So we like to reward action takers. I haven't talked about any products that we have, but we do 3 things for weight loss in our office. And they're, number one, based around detox. So detox, we have 3 different things that you can do, because like I said, you have to get to the cell before your body can get well. Detox is a big piece. We can start changing the way that we eat, take in all the things that we talked about, and start putting those changes in. But oftentimes you're going to reach a plateau where you're like, man, I'm doing all the right things, I'm not eating any sugar, I'm not eating any grains, and I'm at this plateau. That's usually when we start to have that toxicity. Because what happens? Where's toxicity stored? In our fat. So guess what? When we start being effective at losing fat, does toxicity in our body go up or down? It goes up, right? But our bodies are meant to handle toxic loads, but not to the level that it is, and then it becomes overwhelmed, and then it's difficult, right? So we look at a couple of different things. True Cellular Detox, you guys may have heard me talk about it before. True Cellular Detox is a detox, it's a 90-day program. Sometimes it can seem daunting, right? There's simple, easy dietary changes that you make during that and along the way. It's set up in a way where you start with the preparation phase. This helps to prep the downstream organs. So this helps to prep the gut, the kidneys, the liver, right? The next one's the body phase. This starts to pull toxins out of the body so that it can dump it and get it into the rest of the system. And then the brain phase. The brain phase, some people have to do this 1 time, some people have to do it 12 times, right? This is for people who were like people who lived in Flint, right? With the lead issue in the water. If your lead lasts in our body 5 generations. So mom and our generation is just at the end of the lead generation. So oftentimes that lead is in our bones and it gets passed on through generations. So brain phase helps with heavy metal and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, so we're able to start to pull some of these heavy metal toxins out of the brain, right? So much more, I try and do this once a year, once every 2 years with our kids too. The other option is we have one that's a 14-day detox. Now this, right now, is $8.97. If you pay for it at once, if you pay for it over time, I think it's $10, $11, something like that. But we're giving a discount, 20% if you purchase tonight and 10% if you purchase before the end of the week. Okay. The other one is more of a 14-day detox, a little bit more palatable. It's a great jump start to stopping sugar, stopping some caffeine for now, and then stopping grains. Right. 14 days. Helps you break some of those addictions, helps you break some of those habits that you have, and gives you support along the way. Okay, that is, I believe, $180 retail, and the same discounts apply for that. Okay. The last one is just where you just need a little bit of help to get started in the morning, right? And so this one, what I usually recommend is the greens first, and then eat one of the proteins. So the chocolate and the vanilla Metabo shake are a full profile hormone support. Or if you don't need that as much, just the greens and the collagen protein. The collagen protein is just protein. Okay? So those are kind of all the options. I also recommend fish oil with the 2. This one kind of contains some oils. So fish oil is good. Again, we want to start the day with oil. So that MCT oil, butter. I have butter and coffee, so I have at least a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of MCT, probably a tablespoon and a half of MCT in my coffee every day, blended together, and that's breakfast, right? And the good thing is oftentimes if you have a ketone meter or something like that, it will not kick you out of starvation mode, so you're actually still fasting even if you have that in the morning for some people. I know that I am because I've done my glucose and ketone test in the morning to make sure that that's what happens. Some people can just have black coffee, but black coffee will not pull you out of the fast side unless you're adding sugar or dairy. And then if you're adding dairy, if you get grass-fed heavy cream, oftentimes that will keep you in ketosis because it doesn't have the high sugar levels of regular milk. So those are a couple of things. So if anybody's interested in any one of the detoxes and has questions, let me know. I think that I gave a lot of actionable things for you guys to start doing tomorrow, right? When we wake up tomorrow, think about the time you go to bed, right? If our last meal, if our last calorie, that means a Coke or whatever you have, our last calorie is at 8 o'clock at night. If we don't eat until 8 o'clock the next day, that's 12 hours, that's easy, right? I usually go 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock, is what my rhythm is, and then I eat around between 1 and 2. And now you don't do that from day one. So let me just take a step back and talk about how, if you want to start doing some intermittent fasting, how to make it realistic, right? And not feel like you're depriving it. Just number one, start cutting out your snacks. So eat the same time you eat in the morning, eat your lunch, eat your dinner, stop snacks, okay? Even if it's good snacks like almonds and broccoli and carrots. I used to do this all the time. I snacked on carrots and broccoli all day long, right? And I could tell a difference. I liked the energy. I liked the nutrients that I was getting. But when I started cutting them out, I was surprised at how my body actually started burning fat for fuel, right? Our body's supposed to burn fat for fuel, but it gets in this sugar burning mode where now we start to get hangry, right? We go too long between meals, we start to get a headache, we start to not feel good. So stopping those snacks in between meals, right? Drink water. Your body's oftentimes giving you signals that you're hungry, you're just thirsty, right? So you can start taking away those snacks. And then you can start going a little longer in the morning. So say that you normally wake up at 7, ate last time at 8, wake up at 7, you like to eat first thing in the morning. So start to push that maybe back to 8 o'clock. This is where the protein and greens comes in great because you can just put it in 12 ounces of water, shake it up, and you're set to go, and you got a full meal replacement, right? So you can start doing that so you're getting a healthy meal replacement at that time. Throw some MCT oil in there, and we've got a full good profile, right? Start pushing that back a little bit. So go from 7 till 8, or 7 till 7:15, or 7 till 7:30. Just start pushing it back. Before you know it, you're going to be going and it's going to be like, I don't even feel like I need to eat, right? That's one way of intermittent fasting. You can do a 16-8, you can do an 18-6, you can do 24, so 20 off, 4 on, and you just eat whatever you want to eat during that. Don't change too much of what you eat, right? Other intermittent fasts, you go 2 24-hour fasts each week, right? So you don't eat one day and then you eat the other days. Again, when you break fast, it's the most important thing. So think about high fat, think about solid, like nutrient-dense foods. Like a great one that when I do a 5-day fast, my favorite thing to break it with is an avocado and sauerkraut, right? With some salt and pepper on it. It's awesome. Great way to break it. Great way to keep your body in that ketogenic state and make sure you're burning your fat for fuel, right? So the other thing that happens on the other end of that fast, right, is you start getting what's called autophagy. Autophagy is a way that your body selectively takes weak cells and starts to kill them, right? So this helps with health overall. This happens especially in that 5-day or 3-day water fast, but it happens each day if you're doing that fast, in fasting. So those are some things that you can hit the ground running with and kind of go from there. I'm starting a group on the 10th or 11th next week for True Cellular Detox, so if that's something you're interested in, let us know. We have a Facebook group where we go on there and we'll be giving just information each week as we do that. And also for the 14-day detox, we'll have a Facebook group so questions can be asked and things like that as we go through that. Okay. But I think you guys have a lot of information. What questions, if any, do you have? Did that good.
A lot of this is new to me. I mean,
Yeah.
right. When you said you didn't drink water for 5 days?
No, only water.
Only water. Sorry, I was thinking, wow.
Yeah.
That,
No, there is dry fast. You can do a dry fast.
yeah.
Some people do a 3 to 5 day dry fast. There's different benefits
Only
and different
water.
risks. Yeah, so I do just water. So lots of things to think about.
To take in, is
Yeah.
it something that I can? I noticed you were trying to take a picture. You took a picture of.
Oh, just the
and I looked-
resources.
Yeah.
I looked for myself when I left in my car, but I want to have this so I can.
I'll load it on our Facebook page.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
not on Facebook, but I.
Okay. I'll put it on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
You can get to YouTube.
I can.
Okay. So I'll get it into there. And questions about anything else with these, there's full video library that kind of walks you through each
Oh, good.
phase,
Okay.
everything. This includes, it's a whole education process that you get credentials to a website where you go and there's articles, there's a 90-day meal plan, there's, my daughter was, when we did it the first time, how old was she? Maya was 10 or 9. And so she loved baking, so she made like all the desserts. So we just know, what we found out is you just have to add more butter and more oil than what they say if you want more most.
Real butter?
Yeah, grass-fed butter. So usually like Kerrygold butter, or some other companies are starting to do
That's the
grass-fed butters.
Irish one.
Exactly, yeah, that's what's in my coffee every day. Yeah.
They serve that at Starbucks?
You know, some of them do.
They do?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll go ahead and end this today. If you have any questions, then let me know. Like I said, 20% if you buy either one of the options, any of those 3 today. 10% by the end of the week, and we always have it available. So ask questions.
So there are 3 options?
Yep. So the True Cellular Detox, which is kind of the top echelon, it's 90 days. The second one is a 14-day detox. And then that is, did I say how much that was? I think it's 180, so then there would be the discount on that. And then the third one would be the protein and greens, and that's, I think it's like 80, or I'm not sure. You guys know how much the greens and protein
Yeah,
is?
80 or 20% off.
80, so it's 100 usually.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's about 100. And that's a month's supply of that. The 14-day detox is obviously 14 days. And then after the 14-day detox, there are options to go into a paleo or keto weight loss kits that you can do that have different types of protein. This one goes through the 3 exchanges. There's literally like 100 videos that kind of walk you through and take you through that whole process. So,
On YouTube?
these ones are just on a website, so you sign into your own website and kind of go from there. Yeah. So, thanks a lot for coming. I appreciate it. I'll put this up hopefully by the end of the week on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
If I'm not willing to give up alcohol,
Uh-huh.
and it's not that I drink that much,
Uh-huh.
but I like having a glass of wine.
Great.
For something like this, like, is it all or nothing?
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
I 100%.
Like if you cheat, I'm assuming they don't want you to have alcohol because they have sugar in it. But
I got solutions for you. If you just like wine,
yeah.
so you either want to have tequila or vodka, and then, or if you're getting wine, you go visit my friend Santo in Bothell at Rain City Wines, and you get some keto wines. And those are super low sugar. They are wines that are 12.5% or under, and super flavorful. So French, Hungary, and Italian wines are all clean. Meaning you're not going to find anything. Even organic wines in Oregon, we're finding glyphosate in them because of what our government allows to have happen. It's getting into water tables. So there are solutions. So we had keto wine during this process. We belong to a wine club called Dry Farm Wines, and they source these from all over the world. So yeah. So there, so yes, so you can have some of that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's because of the sugars, especially if you're eating good red wines.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay.
You have all my baseline information.